In many parts of the world, diversity is valued, but when it comes to language, deviations from the standard are often treated as odd, funny, or inferior. People can overtly make fun of how others speak.
If I say something wrong, he might be laughing about me or my language or my pronunciation. Of if I say something, like I don't want to say. Do you know what I mean? Like just in that way, like oh my god, like I remember a bad moment in the airport in Dallas that I asked. I don't remember the thing that I asked, but I asked the waitress, and I remember that she laughed from, and maybe she believed that I can understand that they say it, but I, yes, of course, I understand. And I think that, in that moment I can enjoy my lunch, but I said, that's not happen nothing. Maybe I try to speak other language, but maybe she is not. She only speak one language.
I would say probably a couple of years back there was somebody in my lab, and that person had a habit. If you don't say certain word correctly, would just a little bit laugh. That's all it is. And one day I told, you know what? It looks like during your schooling, because the person was, I'm the senior most, and the person is not. It's just a naive student. And I told the person that it looks like that during your childhood education, nobody told you that if somebody has a different accent, you shouldn't be laughing at the person. You understood what I want to say. I want to learn if you tell me correctly that this is the way how it is said. Although I will go on a Google and I will try to figure it out that this. The word was caricature. Now caricature, how do you, that's somebody makes some painting or some with a pencil, right? Those people who are sitting in the Stanley Park and they draw your portrait or something. I don't know how to say it correctly in English, but I always call it caricature. And he was telling it's not caricature. He had a certain way of saying because he's born here. But the point is that, it's okay. It conveyed you the message. You understood what I meant. That's all. The story ends there. After that, actually, he learned his lesson. He stopped that.
Oh, wow.
I don't, what? Somebody should have told you this. Either your parents or your teacher or somebody that, if people have a different accent, you shouldn't be actually laughing. But that was not a racist, actually, experience. It's just that somebody was foolish, in my view.
We lived on indigenous territories. We were right next to the Seychelles lands and reservation, and there was a lot of racism. So deviations from standard English would have been indigenous accents, where I grew up. And that would have been seen as lesser. I have growing up heard people mimicking indigenous accents, in my town, which was very racist.
Sometimes, people experience unpleasant or even offensive encounters in everyday communication. But some native speakers are more sensitive and understanding.
One time this guy came up to me and he's like, "Can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Sure." He's like, "Do you speak Indian?" I'm like, "Do you have any idea how many languages there are in India?" And no, I don't speak Indian. So yeah, that gets frustrating.
Just when traveling, because I lived so long in Canada, I feel Canada is my home now. So when people ask me where you're from, I say I'm from Canada, and they can hear accent in my language. So they're like, "No, where you really from?" And I'm like, "I'm really from Canada." It's like, "No, but where you were originally from?" Then I say like, "Okay, I'm from Belarus." That's what you want to hear. So that's a little bit like, for me, just like, why can't I be from Canada? I am from Canada.
Now I'm working at a cafe as an assistant manager. I do like just a regular barista job, and also I train new staff, and sometimes I do that inventory or something like that. Sometimes my boss like treated me like I don't not useful but unuseful, but like because I don't speak English properly, they ask someone else to do something, even though it's my job.
A lot of employees at Starbucks, I found often the stores I worked at, a lot of them just moved to Canada, or they're on a study permit or a work permit. So they only worked a few hours a week, but a lot of them had English as like a second or third or fourth language. So when I was training them, I had to be really careful in what terms I used to talk to them, because it wasn't always, sometimes when I would say, oh yeah, I told you this before, but I would tell them, can you please go jump on the register? So for me and maybe some other people, that just means go stand at the register. You're now the person on register. You're going to use the register and you're going to help customers. But for them, when I said it, they're like, all they said was, they got really confused because they're like, you want me to physically jump on the register? This doesn't make sense. And once they told me that, I was like, right, I can't, this is not the language that they would understand. It's, can you please go stand at and use the register? But it was one of those things that I said so casually because everyone else, most people I work with, they would understand it because that's just something you say. But then after training, I realized that's not a normal thing to say, and it's a way we use certain terms of language that isn't maybe common to a lot of people or isn't taught to people in common language.
These experiences often cause negative feelings. They can also reduce diverse English speakers' confidence.
I was nervous and I was not very confident with my English, and I seldom, spoke in the class because I was afraid. Because I think I thought that I was a strange student.
When people made some of these, like I call them autocorrect, sometimes it makes me feel a little bit like self-conscious. And it also kind of reduces my confidence a little. Because coming to Canada, I was like really self-conscious, especially about my accent. And when I've come across these corrections, it has really made me feel like self-conscious. Sometimes I've actually lost my confidence, and sometimes I've even thought of like maybe I need to take some language, some English course, maybe try to work on my pronunciation a little bit. Yeah, so that's been a little disheartening at times.
Oh, I've had it, I think, over the course of my life. People, will make remarks like, oh, you speak very well, and, you speak very good English, things of that nature. And I think it's born out of people's assumptions around stereotypes. I think in terms of feelings, there's a certain amount of, oftentimes, anger. There's, I think, also, for me, resentment. And then on the other side of it, there's, and this is probably going to sound a little peculiar, there's also a bit of pity, because what people are seeing is not me. They're seeing their projection of who they think I am. The ways in which we engage in these kinds of behaviors that demean and harm people to make ourselves feel good and also to exercise power.